welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, the podcast about video games and beer. I'm one of your hosts, Ben. It's episode 323, and I'm here with Aadil.
Hey!
We're going to drink some beers and continue our chats from the last episode about the video games that we've been playing. I'm gonna jump in with the beers.
Go for it.
It's another Sainsbury's beer, but this is from Fierce. I didn't realise Fierce were in supermarkets. It's a Maple Pancake, a pancake pale at 6.5%. You can see the pancake stack covered in maple syrup, and I assume a little block of butter on the top.
That's very North American, with having the basically freshly unwrapped foil butter that you get in diners.
Like not heated in any way.
No,
it's
been refrigerated so that it doesn't melt in the foil.
The flavour text gives me this pancake pale was made with vegan pancakes in the mash, so it's actually got pancakes in it. It'd be interesting to know what makes
kind of
them
vegan. No eggs. But
no eggs.
Yeah.
Is it like just oat milk? Or
presumably all of that. But there's so many ways of making vegan pancakes.
Yes.
Like banana's a good thing to have.
Yep.
Like in pancakes that doesn't require animal. But I would imagine that they would have to say if it was banana, because that's a distinct flavor.
Potentially, yes.
They're like, well, we just threw some flour, bananas, baking powder into the mash.
But like, what do you use instead of like chia seeds or something like that? Potentially.
Yeah.
But yes, so this pancake pale was made with vegan pancakes in the mash and Canadian maple syrup in the boil. Full-bodied, full-flavoured, yet really drinkable. Perfect with vegan breakfast or garnished with a cheeky slice of bacon. I mean, I'm probably not going to have a beer at breakfast, but sure, if you want a stack of vegan pancakes at breakfast, that's fine. It says it's a small batch beer. I assume that means that they've only made it for Sainsbury's. But that is pretty much all you get, apart from a bit of chat about Fierce. Oh, our small batch edition beers are brewed as one-off specials or rare seasonals. Doesn't tell me whether it's only a Sainsbury's beer, but there we go. I shall open up this and drink it. Aadil, what are you going to drink?
Well, seeing as it's just the two of us this week, I have...
is it a Chris Rock beer?
Haha! Oh, I enjoyed that. No, but it's the Arbor Date Night.
Oh, nice.
It's the New England DIPA. It's a sharing can. So it's listed as 568 or 2 half pints.
Nice, that's nice.
New England Double IPA brewed with Azacca, Citra, Idaho 7, Mosaic, and Talus hops. It is 8.8%. 8% sharing can. Unfortunately, because we are on the internet, Ben, I might have to also have your half.
What a shame for you.
I'm a good date.
Nice.
But yeah, I'd never seen this before. I really like the idea. Also, how can you go wrong? It's just a full pint can.
Yeah.
At the very least. Oh my god.
It'd be interesting to see what that's like as a beer. I would hazard a guess that the majority of craft beer drinkers don't have partners who are also craft beer drinkers. So a craft beer.
You might be projecting.
No, I am, and as I say, I hazard a guess. Right?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
a majority only needs to be 51%. So, but I would imagine that a lot of people who are craft beer drinkers, their partners don't also drink craft beer.
I mean, from my anecdata, I will say, what apparently happens is after you stop being partners, they start drinking craft beer.
Like, what was this thing that they were so into? Oh, wow, yeah.
Now that it's not stealing a night a week of partnership.
So it'd be interesting to know what this beer is like. If it's a little bit, even though it's a bigger, 8%, whether it's a little bit lighter, whether it's something that's maybe a little bit more broad.
Like, you mean less like boisterously flavored?
Yes,
Yeah.
in terms of being able to hit a broader range of people. It's like date night. Here's a beer.
I hope it's like date night. This is for you craft couples.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So tell me about your beer though.
The Fierce, almost not quite clear, but very, very on the translation side. You can see my thumb through the back. Almost a brown, very, very bronzy kind of colour. It's super carbonated when it came out, and a lovely, lovely burnt maple syrup smell to it. You're instantly getting that maple syrup straight off that nose. A little bit of brown sugar as well. That's very nice. That smell is lovely. Ooh, flavours. That's really good. So you're not just hit with that sweet sugar. You're not just hit with that kind of slight burnt kind of edge. You're not quite hit with that maple syrup. You do have the pancake in there as well. There is absolutely that. Again, it's not quite pastry. It's kind of that like fried batter mix. It is undeniably tastes like a pancake with maple syrup on the top. They've got that over in the flavour. Who knows how many pancakes actually went into this to bring that out? But it does taste like that. Yeah, vegan pancakes, yes.
I think it's important given that like not all vegan pancakes taste like pancakes. So if this is tasting like pancake,
yes,
and it's of vegan born,
yep, absolutely. It doesn't give me information on things like the hops or the malt that's gone into it. It only tells me that it's got cereals, barley and wheat being some of those as the allergens, but that is it for actually what's kind of gone into the beer side of this. But that's very lovely. Who knew that maple syrup and pancake in a liquid form would be this drinkable, let's say. You can imagine it being a cloying kind of like, it's a bit sticky and a little bit too much.
When you were saying it tastes like maple syrup and pancakes, I was like, I don't think I want to drink that. Because that doesn't sound like a beer. But it seems like it's... So I guess the way you described it, in my head, there was a tension between like, oh, this is being true to taste, and this is fun to drink.
Yes.
And it sounds like it is doing both. It
is doing both. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's one where it starts off a little bit sweet and then builds into those flavors quite nicely. So it lifts you up and then just opens up into that lovely kind of slightly burnt maple syrup, that little bit of pastry flavor, that little bit of pancake kind of flavor on there as well, whilst maintaining that sweetness kind of throughout. So it just ties it together quite nicely. But it's one of those where it could almost be, the maple syrup, it's essentially like caramelized sugar, isn't it? Really. That's kind of what you're...
That syrup, maple syrup, do not fuck with the Canadian on the difference between syrup and maple syrup. One, he's lived in this country and there are treacles and syrups, and it's like, they're no...
Yes.
They're not the same.
The UK is very like, here's just put golden syrup on instead. You're like, that is not the same. But this is... this very much feels like it's got a lot of like Demerara sugar in it as well. Right. Like it sits slightly differently to what is coming through as the sort of the maple syrup kind of flavor. So there's definitely a few, or at least maybe not additions, but it's changed in a way that kind of makes you feel like they've just cooked up a load of Demerara sugar in this as well, which doesn't make it, who gives a shit, tastes fucking great. So
that's great. I am going to seek this out just because when you showed the tin, I was like, it's either like it's either a lie or it's going to be bad, and you're telling me neither. And now I'm super curious.
Yeah, yeah. I think you'd enjoy this.
Now here's a question before we get on to my beer, because you brought up the hey, what if someone wasn't into craft beer? If someone wasn't into craft beer, is this like too out there a thing? Or is it one of those things where it's like the Vault City Sours, where it's like, oh, if you don't like beer, this is great because this is like not a beery beer.
Ooh. I will probably cop out on that and say it's probably like down to the individual. I think in terms of if you don't like craft beer but you like these flavors, then yes, yeah. Absolutely.
So like, does Kim like pancakes?
Kim. I think Kim could to have a swig of it, but it's one of those that maybe she would only drink about half.
Yeah.
And I think it's very rich.
It's still a beer.
It's very rich. It's still a beer, and I think that she would drink about half and be like, "Yep, I'm done with this." And I absolutely, I'm going to leave a little bit of this at the bottom, so when we finish, I can take it down to her and be like, "Just have a little, tiny little swig of this, just to see if you enjoy the flavors." Because Kim is a fiend for pancakes.
Oh really?
Yeah, absolutely. Her and Evelyn's like, "Hey, it's Saturday. Can we have pancakes?" I'm like, yeah, okay.
Do you make pancakes local style or North American style? Do you make like thin crepe style, or do you make like thick North American style?
You're a bit in between.
Man, you are copping out left, right, and center here.
No, but it is a bit in between. Like I don't make a super thin crepe. But again, I'm not making that nice fluffy, you know, kind of like 5-6 inch kind of little pancake. Although the pan that I've got is that size, they're a little bit thinner than you would call a North American.
I mean, I think you probably make them similar to. I never make them like diner thick. I make them maybe, I would say, probably like a centimeter.
Yeah, it's similar. Similar.
Yeah. So that's my ideal pancake. But again, you just have several of them.
We mine aren't vegan, apart from they're dairy free for Evelyn, because she can't have milk.
But not egg
so
free.
It's, right? It's a couple of eggs and it's oat milk, and occasionally I'll chuck in blueberries into the mix and fry it up with blueberries, or with banana and fry it up with banana as well.
Right.
But we generally be like, we've got loads of fruit. Let's make pancakes and cover it in fruit. And then Kim's like, I'll get the ice cream. I'm like, fucking hell, it's like 7:30 in the morning. No one needs ice cream at this time.
You know what I realized? The last couple of times I've come back from Canada, I haven't furnished you with maple syrup. Keep just bringing maple syrup back and giving it to the house. I definitely should give you guys a bottle.
I will. Very good.
Because it's not good quality and crazy expensive here. When you get like Canadian maple syrup, you're like, oh.
Well,
yeah.
Unfortunately for the UK, you either get like, as you say, Canadian maple syrup, but it's like £2, or you get Canadian maple syrup, and it's like 10 quid.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm not spending 10 quid on maple.
Yeah, I'm like, look, it's good, but it's not good, you know.
Yeah. Even if you're having pancakes every other week, that's
I mean, it's even worse because then you just get through it, right?
That's true. Yeah. We don't budget. We don't budget for good maple syrup in this household.
You guys don't cook fish often, do you?
I mean, once or twice a week.
Oh, okay, yeah, because soy maple glazed salmon is so easy to do, but you need real maple syrup, and it's one of the first times I like when I first started cooking fish, I was like, I look like a goddamn genius. It's so simple.
Nice.
Yeah, so I will source you some maple syrup, and remember that in the future, because I've noticed that I bring back a bottle for me and a bottle for my house, and then I often go through both because I don't think my. And so why am I like so like there's I think there might actually be just a bottle that hasn't been cracked, in which case I'll just give it to you. But if not, I'll get you one next time a Canadian passes through.
Perfect.
You were absolutely correct at the 20-minute mark. The cat is yelling at the door. We'll be right back.
Go. For everybody listening, it's nuts how much this does taste like pancakes. And it's difficult to know whether it's the association of maple syrup to pancakes that my mind is just like, oh, this tastes like pancakes. Whereas the more I'm drinking it, the more maple syrupy it is.
So this is what I wanted to know. When you said there was pancakes in it, I was like, whoa. Like actual pancakes? It's like, do you need to do that?
Who knows? I mean, they've done it and very successfully made a beer which is what it says. It'd be interesting to have a beer which doesn't have the pancakes in, but has the equal amount of maple syrup then put in to the boil. Is that what they said? They put it in somewhere, maybe. Yes. Yes, the maple syrup went into the boil. So it'd be interesting to see if it's just the notion of the maple syrup which is eliciting that feeling and that flavour of pancakes. Who knows? We'll find out one day. No tests will be conducted to find that out. Aadil, your beer. We've talked about maple syrup and this beer a lot. Let's jump to your beer.
Look at this beer.
That's
a
hazy, like dishwater boy.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a muddy, hazy looking beer. It poured with basically this much head. It's for those of you watching, you can see it's a bit more orangey than my camera makes. Like my lighting is quite yellow in this room, and so it's a bit more orange. But it's lovely. Like what is that? It's like a cut of lemon zest underneath or on top of like just juicy, slightly dank is the wrong word, but there's like my mind is just going through me saying it's muddy, and there's something about it that just like bogs down in a good way in the nose.
But it smells like a walk on the beach or an expensive
not
restaurant.
Quite, no, not not quite that zippy, but yeah.
I mean, a dank, weedy flavour is definitely my idea of a day night, but
yeah, it's not a dank, weedy flavour. That's why it's just like. So I don't know why I was avoiding dank for bogged down. It was just like I think it's just like, I think it's like the fruits are kind of just been jumbled and like aged a bit too long, but not fermented. Just like if you took the fermented sort of edge off of a taste, you got this sort of mash of strong fruity flavor. That's kind of what the nose was.
Okay.
It's So I just want to. Oh, this is really good, Ben.
Nice.
Like I'm gonna enjoy your half.
Good.
It is what you were saying though. So there's like some really interesting tastes. Ooh, it finishes kind of light and on its toes with like a slightly like almost peppery, like a. I'm doing finger dancing motions for those of you listening. It's got this really light finish, and underneath that I'm getting like again that sort of more like fruit that's been sitting there. It's a little sweet because it's been sitting there, not that it's sweet fruit. And that's what gives away. I think that's what makes it like, hey, this is 8% because these fruits have been places. Again, it's not like boozy, and it's not like, oh, this is fermented. I just mean like, oh, these fruit flavors are a little more firm. So they're not. It's a lightish beer. You could share this easily with someone who's like not into craft beer because it's not boisterous.
Good. Okay.
It's just all of these fruits are really solid, and you're getting a slight hint of citrus, not super tropically, just a little bit. I would say, like nothing like pineapple, nothing as distinct as mango. Just like a generic sort of melange of tropical fruit and regular fruit. And it's and then it fades away, and you get this like slightly zippy finish. oh, and it sits. I've had this much, and I have had. I mean, I had a 5.5% beer before, but I'm like, oh, I have had a beer. This is
Yeah.
definitely hitting. It's 8%. You aren't like sometimes you have an 8% beer, and you're like, this is a beer that you have a few sips. You're like, okay, it's not like super sickly sweet, but I've had something boozy. Which again makes sense for the date night like premise, which is like, we will each have half a pint of this.
Yes.
And again, it's like I said, it's like broad, not boisterous, right? These flavors are really are there. They're sort of, they're not like, it's not dripping in the fruit. It's just the fruit's definitely present. Um, it's I've never had Talus hops, and I'm wondering if that's what this missing
You
flavor.
must have.
Have I? Well, sorry. I when I say never, I mean I don't think I've had a single hop Talus such that I can be like, ah, yes, Talus.
Yes,
I think that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. I don't think I've had a single hop
Because
Talus
my brain
beer.
is too like simple. Sometimes it's like, ah, yes. Once I've had a couple single hop mosaics or Citras or Idaho Sevens, I'm like, ah, yes, this this carving of the taste profile is definitely from that. And like I've definitely had Talus before, but I just mean I don't know,
Yep.
or at least maybe I'm not done the dissecting.
What
To be
you're
like,
getting from
it's
that
giving it,
hop.
yeah.
Yes.
But I
Yeah.
think it's the mystery thing that I'm struggling a bit with because there is something that I know I'm not quite describing well. But it doesn't fucking matter. Like, find this beer, share it with a friend, or just me, myself, and I.
Brilliant.
It's really wonderfully like, again, it's 8%. And the mouthfeel is thick because you can't get away from it. But nothing about the taste is making you feel that like, oh god, this is an 8% beer. You just feel it kind of in the way it hits you. It's like, what if Wiper and Drew made a boozy beer?
Okay.
Kind of. In this, it's not quite as nuanced, but in the sense of like, everything is pretty pared back. It's just like, in the sense nothing is rearing its head or being like, pay attention to me. But it's all quite big in its small role. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's really tasty.
Nice.
And I'm glad that it hits a bit boozier in the sense of like, oh, I can feel I've had a few sips of an 8%, because otherwise I think I would just drain this, because everything about it's just like, oh, this is really tasty. This is nice, and like, ah, yeah, I'm on a date.
You're on a date with someone else and just necking back that beer, and they're like, "Can I try something?" No, this is for me.
Also, I will say the taste curve is quite compressed. So like the initial taste, I think that's why it's easy to go back for. Those initial fruity tastes that go slightly. I want, again, not quite stewed, not quite fermented, but there's something that's like, sort of, oh, the fruit's been there for a bit.
Yeah, a bit more earthy.
Yeah, maybe that's that's a good way of putting it. And then you get this like lightly peppery sort of, kind of on its toes part of the finish, and then it's finished, and then the rest of the finish that lingers now that I've got the bitterness sort of on my palate is like a light, not quite like a light citrus sort of sweetness. But like not from a tangerine, but again the sweetness you get from like a more mediocre orange, like a navel orange, just like that. Oh yes, it's like, and I still have the rest of that like stewed bitterness sort of sitting there as well. It's just, my palate's gotten used to it, so it's just, I could sit and enjoy this finish, but because the taste was so interesting and felt lightish, even though again it has these sort of stronger plummy, earthy flavors, I just want to take another swig, and the only thing stopping me is like, oh, I feel like I've had some beer, and so I will slow down, which is such an interesting balance. I don't know if I've ever had a beer that like feels boozy, but tastes lighter on its toes. Like, it's a really interesting juxtaposition that I can't recall ever seeing in a beer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. Arbor constantly doing new things as well, which is brilliant from those guys. Good. Let's continue then our chat about the games that we've been playing, I suppose, from the previous episode. I might jump in
Yeah, go for it.
Just with initial impressions of Trek to Yomi, which I'm really enjoying. This is a very good game. It is the I suppose newest game from Devolver Digital from the last couple of weeks. It's a game on Game Pass, but it is a kind of, I suppose, side-scrolling, like samurai fighting game. You're not quite samurai, right? You're not quite trained up as much. You're not in full kind of samurai armor. You're more kind of like
You are
Japanese swordsman who.
I was saying, you got the Bushido style in some of the.
It's a bit more Bushido, yeah. And you
Yeah.
defend the town. It's not Bushido in the way that, like Bushido is kind of like that one stroke, right? When you kind of duel. This is very much a like side-scrolling kind of fighter. So you are on one side of the screen and an enemy may be on the other, and you can do lots of button combinations for different kinds of attacks. You might double tap on the pad that I'm playing on, the Xbox pad I'm playing on, double tap X and do 2 light attacks. You can tap Y to do a heavy attack. You can combine those 2 in certain ways. You can press up and double tap X, which will do a slightly different attack. You can block and parry, and lots of different. The combat is quite involved, or can be quite involved, and is maybe my only concern with the game is that it starts to feel not clunky, but a little bit like I'm feeling like, oh, I should be doing kind of more. And I'm light attack on a few enemies, and they're not going down. And then I'll do a couple of heavy attacks, and they will go down. But I could light attack them 20 times, and they won't actually kind of go down. But I'm not as concerned about that, because the difficulty in getting through the encounters, and it's not always one-on-one. You come up against multiple enemies as well, kind of in this.
Oh,
this
so it's not like
scrolling.
It's not Samurai Movie the game in the sense of like.
Yeah, it's not all individual duels. No, not at all. It's very much like fighting through bandits and things like that on the levels. But that's not where the joy in this game comes from. The joy absolutely comes from the art style, and it is all black and white. It's all grainy. There's lots of beautiful weather effects that run across a lot of this. They frame and position the camera so well in some of this, even in the fights. Like when you do come up against one person, they've set the camera so actually the 2 characters are silhouetted against a stormy sky kind of backdrop, and everything is layered so beautifully behind it. And then you are just moving and trying to flow with this enemy character and fighting each other, parrying and taking a couple of swipes and stuff. And it works really. It looks so good. And it's trying that Kurosawa kind of like style as well, with a lot of the sweeping kind of shots, how it's setting up, especially in the beginning, how it sets up the kind of the epilogue, and how the character kind of like grows through this sort of epilogue, and where the camera sets on the cutscenes and things like that. It leans into that style so much and does it very, very well. And then against that kind of side-scrolling attacking, it also then tries to do a little bit with like almost like fixed but panning cameras. So you can move around the environment almost on a kind of like a 2D plane. So you might be able to kind of like run up the map and go over here, and that's the path to go. But you might be able to just pull away, and there's like a free roam sort of. So you're not just moving left to right. You can kind of move across the plane and go up. And there's lots of little secret paths and things like that to help you get upgrades and collectibles and these kinds of things. And that's a nice break in the combat. But really, this is kind of like Fury with an I, not with a Y. Fury, which came out years and years ago now, which was a big.
I never played it. I definitely own it.
It's really good. But that was like a kind of like a boss battler kind of game. You'd move through the environment a bit. You'd do a little bit of light platforming, and then you'd get to that big boss battle, and you'd have that big kind of what is now very much like that bullet hell roguelike kind of experience with the bosses. Trek to Yomi doesn't do that, but it's the same as Fury in like you need some downtime. Explore this little bit of space. Move through it. Find it. You might have a very light combat encounter where it's only a couple of kind of people. And it's very easy to get through. And then you find another space, and you might be able to explore that a little bit. And then suddenly you're into this slightly more intense kind of battle between you and a couple of enemies, or one enemy, and things like that. And it does this balancing act very, very well. It's a very well-made game. And I did bring up earlier who had made it. Because again, I think it's one of those games that started off as a project for an individual. So when it comes up in the credits, and it says if you Google Trek to Yomi, it will come up and say that Leonard Menciari is one of the developers. I think it probably started off as his project, and it was then taken on by Flying Wild Hog, who have made lots of games recently, under Devolver Digital, a lot, Polish developer, including what is the newest Shadow Warrior. The new Shadow Warrior 3 is from them. And I wonder whether they went to, or at least when the developer went to Devolver, and they're like, yes, we absolutely want to get this, but let's hook you up with one of our sort of like developer partners to kind of flesh this out a little bit. That's kind of maybe when they were brought in. Oh, they made Hard Reset and Hard Reset Redux as well, which is great. That's a really good first-person shooter. Anyway, it's one of those like games which has grabbed me, and I think like in a good way, but also unfortunately, I think I'm kind of almost like halfway through, only after a couple of hours of playing. I don't think this is going to be a big game. I think this is maybe only like a 5 or 6 hour game potentially. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 8. You might hit 8 hours or something like that.
3 to 7 hours.
3 to 7. Okay. So yeah, I'm about halfway through, and I'm about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours in, something like that. So yeah.
So one of my favorite websites is howlongtobeat.com. Yeah. And one of the worst parts about me doing a lot of first looks, like brand spanking new games, is like, oh, maybe I'll continue with this game after I stream, and it's like, how much is left? I don't know. Yeah, so they say that the main story, so if you rush the story, you're going to hit 5 hours, only an hour more with extras, and completionist is 8 hours, so like really not a lot. Like it's a 5 hour game.
Yeah, which sits very well on Game Pass, which is what I'm playing it through.
I was just like, I didn't realize it was on Game Pass because I had seen, I pay attention to Devolver games generally. They're one of my few favorite publishers. And I knew this was coming. For some reason, I missed that it was one of the May Game Pass releases.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely will give it a go, especially if the whole thing will take 5 hours. I mean, good lord. My other option is, more hours of Elden Ring.
I think it would be if someone is massively into Elden Ring at the moment, I think it would be quite a good break from that. It's still giving you that kind of Still gives you that like twitchy kind of combat,
So,
but just presented very differently, and is maybe not, having not played Elden Ring, maybe not quite as intense. I've never felt with Shrek to Yomi like pressured.
versus the whole point of FromSoft games is
Yes, yeah,
be pressured.
absolutely.
Can I jump into a review roundup just because it addresses this exact moment? So here we have, it's a bit of a long one because most of the short ones are not useful, but this is Time Freeze, who spent 5.5 hours on record for a time review. Negative review. I really wanted to love this game. The design, story, soundtrack, all of these things, excellent. So why the downvote? Because the awful combat destroys this otherwise perfect game. Inputs are getting ignored a lot of the time, or just getting read double. For example, boss time, you want to dodge roll to his other side, then land an attack. What does your character do? Rolls twice and misses the chance to hit the boss. Or just swing an extra attack without even hitting a single button. Or the best thing, just ignoring any input for a few seconds before moving, which obviously means that you just get at least one hit from an enemy before you can do something. Same goes for all the attacks, which are purposely slow so that it's easier to read, or rather to parry. Those slowdowns in the attacks are messing the timings more up than they are supposed to help. If it would not have been for this awful combat system, which sometimes works as you want and sometimes just does whatever the hell it wants, this game would easily have been a candidate for my personal game of the year.
I completely agree. So part of the issue with the combat is that it does. Again, it's not clunky. It just does miss stuff.
That's not good.
No, it's not good. It's not, because I have absolutely.
It's 2022.
Yeah, I have had times where I'm like, oh, I double tapped X and then tapped Y straight afterwards, but it's only just done the light attack, and it hasn't then hit with the heavy attack afterwards. Did I mistime it? Have I? Did I?
It's like there's an input
is
buffer.
It user?
Or something?
Is it? Yeah. Is it user error? But it's happened enough that I have kind of just thought, right, okay, there's definitely a bit of a lag within this, and kind of just accepted it and tried to mitigate against that with the combat that I've done. So I'm like, well, I won't do that.
So you're
combat.
like,
sure.
Versus.
Yes, exactly. And pressing them a little bit slower just to try and get into that. I don't know whether that's made much difference to kind of what's actually coming about. But yeah, there is definitely a little bit of bugginess. And also on PC, it struggles a little bit with textures. So when it loads into a scene, it might suddenly be like, bomp, here are all the textures, and like, oh, cool. Yeah, that would have been great from the outset. Now it looks fantastic. Perfect. All right. It's not really on a gameplay basis. I'm not loading into a new screen and suddenly I'm running through and then all of the textures pop up. It is more on that cutscene kind of level that stuff is a bit flat and then will just pop in. And I kind of was like, well, it must be down to my PC. But this doesn't, it's not a big game. Very small in its install, kind of like file size. And there's not a huge amount going on. And I'm not doing much on my PC for it to be a working issue. It's just kind of like, now the textures are here. It's caught up a little bit.
Oh, I'm really sad that the graphics are also...
And I think it's maybe just a bit of optimization kind of issues. Potentially this is a game that was maybe made for console, which has come like across the PC. I don't know. But it just doesn't quite work. So yeah, it's very much, and I feel very similarly in that the gameplay is, again, not quite as fluid as I would like it to be. And then that issue with the graphics means that a game which absolutely would have been right up the top of my favourite games this year just stacks down that little bit to be like, yeah, this is a fun play. Okay, cool.
That's so. In traditional review roundup fashion, we do too. I mean, sometimes one is dumb and fun, but sadly, no one's being clever. It's mostly like awful combat, says Shafak. Thanks, you've spent 3 hours with this game. But oh, I've lost it. No. Oh yeah. So this is Gerby. That's four eyes for those of you playing score at home, keeping score at home. I know English. I'm having an 8% beer
I
though.
do English.
Gerby says 5 hours on record. Outstanding visual direction, dragged down by terrible combat that you spend a good half of the game with. If you're looking for something to binge play in 3 to 4 hours, I'd recommend giving it a go, as the art direction is one of the strongest I've seen in a while.
Absolutely.
If the gameplay portion of the game is your main focus, then wait until sale or avoid it completely.
I might not be quite as strong as that, especially with it being on Game Pass. I think.
Well, yeah, so this is Steam, right?
Yes,
So this poor bastard spent 16 quid on it.
Yeah.
I think.
I think for anyone with Game Pass, it is definitely it's a must play. You might only spend an hour with it, and then you put it down and go, "Nah, that's not for me."
I think unless you're an insane completionist, who I used to be, don't be old Aadil, be new Aadil, who is older Aadil, if we're keeping track of how time works. You play a game. When it starts not being fun, stop playing it. It's just a game.
Absolutely. I'll return to chat about Trek to Yomi when I've got through the entire thing to see.
I mean, I'll probably join in because now I'm curious, if only to experience the visual style for like 30 minutes, right? Like it looks so good that even if it's kind of mushy or missy, technical terms, I want to see how that works, right?
Absolutely.
Like I didn't get to play whatchamacallit on the PlayStation in its Kurosawa mode, and that
Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I really want to play that game. I really wanted to play that game in Kurosawa mode because Kurosawa was definitely one of my entries into like film as a different sort of thing than movies. Not in the sense of like paying attention to learning different ways of really seeing the craft be very different from what I was used to growing up, because I grew up loving 80s 90s action movies, still do, but like seeing that, and like there will always be a soft spot for Kurosawa, and that when I saw that in the like, I think it was like an E3 interview or trailer or something, where they're like, oh, also we could just make it black and white and Japanese text, and you'll have these intense moments which are literally ripped from one of your favorite filmmakers of all time's samurai movies. I was like, yes, please, and yet I still didn't end up playing it. This seems like the art style is so evocative, and the fact that even the people who are like, I don't like this game, are like, boy, is it beautiful. I mean, I'm gonna give it a go.
Yeah, it just echoes what I said just now. Yeah, absolutely. If you've got Game Pass, it's a definite must play. Even if you only spend 30 minutes, an hour with it, just to see that beautiful visual style. But yeah, I mean, again, the game is easy enough in its combat that even with the lag and the input issues, that it isn't a problem. Like you're not bashing your head against the wall constantly because you're like, oh, it's missed my inputs. I'm dying constantly. It's kind of easy enough so far, and as I say, I'm about halfway through. I think, that it's not a problem.
It sounds like some of the reviewers are mad, but you're just disappointed.
Yeah. Oh, I'm never mad. Games are games. You can't.
No. I just mean in the sense of like, you're like, this. I can see how this could have been tighter, but I'm enjoying it for what it is.
Yeah, completely. Yes, absolutely. I fear that we are running out of time on this week's.
Oh wow,
give us a. Obviously, people can go to Twitch, Out of Lives Network. They can probably go to YouTube at some point for Out of Lives as well, because it'll be up on the VOD. Give us just a quick 5 minutes on the game you played this week.
Yeah, so this week on First Looks, I played the Switch version of Bugsnax. And you were actually in the stream for a bit, I think.
Yeah.
Which we'll make this not as quick, maybe, because you might have things to say. But
No, I'm just gonna shut up. Just let you go.
I mean, I was excited about it when it was this PlayStation only release a million years ago. 2, 1, I don't know. It's all a blur. It's silly. It's definitely a game you could play with a partner or a younger loved one or whatever. In the sense that like it's not frenetic. It's it's you're a reporter who reports on cryptids, but you're also a cryptid because you're all fucking weird Bigfoot. You're grumpuses, or whatever. And like your whole shtick is you report on these things, and you kind of screwed your newspaper up, and now you're out on a limb on someone who sent you a letter, and you go there, and it turns out Bugsnax are real, and when you're when people eat them, their limbs, noses, heads turn into parts of the things, and Bugsnax are like Frieder, which is a McDonald's fries where the legs are, where the fries are spider legs, and it crawls on the top of a cave. We've all, I mean, I don't think you've never heard of this. It plays really, it's reasonably tight. You basically are trying to revive the island just so that you can hopefully find the lady who you're supposed to interview for your news article. But basically, you're just catching them all without having to catch them all. You need to scan them with your magic camera, which the game doesn't even explain why. You have a device that scans this thing that you didn't know existed up until now and shows its like pathing and also its likes and dislikes just by scanning it, which I love because again, it's like aimed at who cares.
Yeah.
It's aimed at who cares. And it's great, and you get different tools, and it's like it's basically small puzzles of here are the tools at my disposal. How do I, like for the hardest puzzle of my 2 hours on stream was there's a pineapple which burrows underground in a route, and from your scans that it is burrowed, and then close by is a crapple, which is a crab who's made out of apple slices, and it loves digging things up, and you're like, oh, cool. So one of the things I can do is just stand in the way of the crapple who's going to be afraid of me, and it'll stop and wait, and then as long as I back off in time, it won't reset and run away. So I thought it was an easy puzzle of like, I'll pause you until you literally bump into this pineapple such that only the leaves of the pineapple are above ground, and you apparently love digging things up, so you should just dig it up. That's what the tooltips told me. No, it didn't work.
Oh.
And so and the first time I got the crapple to dig up the pineapple, I wasn't even sure what I did because I was like at a point in the plot where I needed to do it, and I was like, I don't, right? But like it's not so stupidly simple. Like it's but you can figure it out, and there's tips, and also like I could have chosen to go to do something else. There's enough like branching paths that like because you could go talk to a different person you want to convince to come back to town if you didn't know how to finish this quest line, quote unquote, because basically you go out into the world in a new area, you find a new person, and they're like, I won't come back to town until you find these guys, and then you figure out how to find these guys, and they go back to town, and they do a mission for that, you interview them, and then they're now in town, and you're done with them. Right. And hopefully, and all along the way, you get clues on finding where the lady who found the Bugsnax and the island and sent you the movie about it that got you here in the first place. That's the main like plot line. But it's basically just like a very simple, in the sense of structured game of like figure out with these tools how to catch these things. And sometimes I'm assuming later on it'll be like, oh, I'll need to use some a couple times it's been like I said, the crapple has to pick up the I can't remember the pineapple thing, and then you can net the pineapple thing. So you need to make them interact, and I assume at some point there might be like interacting between zones. But my one frustration was I caught both the crapples because I was just catching things. Because like you have a book which says, "Have you scanned it? Have you caught it?" So I scanned it and I caught it. And then I was like, I need to get a crapple near one of these guys. I'll catch one and then release him near it. And it turns out, no, catch and release just sort of like evaporates it.
Right.
And I wish it was much more tactile in the sense of I've got a bag of 6, and then at the end of my stream, it was 7 spots.
Mm-hmm.
Like you unlock more spots in your bag, but like I let one loose, and I was like, now you've freed up a space in the inventory, but I didn't see it escape, and it just kind of sucked a bit. But the other thing is, it has things like ketchup and chocolate, which you can use a slingshot to shoot, and then like because of the likes dislikes on the scanner, you can like lead Bugsnax towards different things, or you've got a Bugsnax in a hamster ball that will follow a laser pointer as one of your tools, and then like later on, you're like, if I hit that guy with chocolate, then I can lead something that loves chocolate all around without having to like splotch things on the ground. So it definitely, the gameplay has legs, but it's super fun. I'm definitely gonna play more of it. I kind of wish, yeah, like I said, I kind of wish it had some, even just for immersion's sake, like you saw it scuttle away or things like that. But the other thing is, when you feed this Bugsnax to the local populace, they will, like, if you feed them a strawberry, their leg will turn into strawberry, or whatever. And so you can, and like improving the town involves donating Bugsnax to the one guy who's like, I don't eat them, I just save them, and then he gives you more inventory slots.
Right.
And so far, there's been no real reason to make Bugsnax, like make people eat them, except for when they ask for it. So there's like a bit of a, just like load up on Bugsnax, donate them, get more inventory space, like min-maxing loop. But obviously, if you're playing with someone who wasn't a min-maxing asshole and was just a regular person or like a kid, you'd be like, oh, did you know when you I'm trying to feed this guy, suddenly I can make his nose a raspberry. We've only ever been done limbs before. Now I can make his nose a raspberry. That's really cool.
Nice.
Worst part though is, at some point I just got wigged out by the body horror. Like like one of the people, their favorite Bugsnax is a hot dog. I fed her a hot dog, and then it was like, where do you want the hot dog to go? Because I have the upgrade that allows me to pick. And I was like, I don't know, the arm. And then her left arm became just like it. So you feed her a Bugsnax that's like a hot dog in a bun with like mustard on it, right? And then it's just a wiener, and it like bounced a bit, and now she just has this like, and then it was just like, oh, this is. I didn't know I had this problem, but I have this problem. I don't like this at all. And now every time I see her, she's got this wiener arm, but it was almost just like the animation of it, like bouncing and like moving within its synthetic, within its hot dog skin. And I was like, oh, I didn't like that. Now every time I meet this person, they just have it.
Brilliant.
Yeah, which I didn't expect at all. That was like that's my one complaint is, oh, this is technically body horror. It's like cartoony, multicolored Bigfoots. So maybe you don't care, but if you do,
oh, nice. I think that it sounds like a good point to leave the Bugsnax talk.
Yeah. Definitely
charming yet horrifying.
Yeah, if you are looking for a game to play, especially like I said, with multiple people, where because I mean, you can get someone like your kid to like think through or try things while you do it's not super refined game. Like you don't have to be great with your sticks to make what your plan is come through. But I think because it's simple, but like I said, like it took me a few minutes to figure out how to do dig up the pineapple, and I've been gaming for a long time. I think it's a really good game. Also, it's really cute, and like I think most people won't react so weirdly to the body horror. So I think it's a really good game to play with people who aren't super into games, or just like want to do some lateral thinking and some problem solving with together, and either want to steer or don't want to steer. It doesn't matter, because like the hard part is sort of, here's a puzzle, here are my tools, what do I do? It doesn't matter who steers. That's like not the hard, like that's not what the game's about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Good. Perfect. So, another episode about the games that we've been playing this week. Let's jump back to our beers then. I don't think there's much more to say, at least about mine. It's great. The Fierce Maple Pancake Pale Ale. That's a really nice beer. If you like pancakes and maple syrup. If you don't like those things,
everyone loves maple syrup.
Don't drink this beer. I mean, everyone should like it, you would imagine. How about the Arbor?
It's only gotten better, I think.
Nice.
I mean, having said that, like, I know I've rambled on for the past 10 minutes, but because it's 8%, but it like feels like 8%, and not in that sickly sweet way, like I have not needed to come back. So I have, I would say, somewhere between half and a third left.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Because it's doing all the things I like. It's lasting. Again, I think they've really designed it well to be split between two people, because I think this would have been gone, right? If it was just two people like chatting away, we'd have a bit of a buzz. 8%, half pint. Really enjoy it. And for me as a singleton, it's like, I don't need to refresh that often. Even though, like I said, it's got a bit of a compressed taste curve for its like ABV, it's fine. It's great. I think it's either it's a date night, and the date could be yourself, basically.
Yeah, that's
it's
fair.
really good. I think it's such a unique approach that you can feel what they were trying to do with the like two people splitting a beer. Like you said at the beginning of the podcast, like this notion of what if both of us aren't craft beer idiots? Like you could definitely share this with someone, and it might not be half and half, but they could have like, this is a tasty beer, and like, there's some fruits going on, and blah blah blah, and like I don't need to worry about having a whole thing of it. I think this is a really, really interesting beer for that, and it worked really well. Yeah.
Good, perfect. So, dear listener, if you have other body horror games, other date night beers that you wish to share with us, come to outoflives.net and comment on the podcast posts for this episode, or hit us up at Tanked Up Cast on most of the socials. I'm Nova_47, and Aadil is
at the Omniarch.
And you can hit us up individually to talk to us about beers or games, or come and join us in our Discord chat for daily ridiculousness and seeing the different things that we are chatting about, and all the beers that we drink kind of like through the week as well. It really helps us if you either go to Twitch and you follow us, or you want to throw us your subscription, and a little Prime subscription, because it's free. And as Aadil mentioned in the last episode, Bezos don't need that money. Use your Prime to subscribe to any Twitch channel. It could be us, that would be brilliant, but any Twitch channel, just to use that up, or go to Out of Lives Network over on YouTube as well, and follow us over there, like our posts, share them with your friends. That always helps as well, and spread the conversation.
Also, give us some feedback on our it's been about a month since we switched to our 2 shorter episodes per week. Let us know if you like them, or if you'd prefer the old stuff. We don't know if we might change, but it'd be good to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you've got any feedback for us at all, it's really helpful to jump on and let us know. And you can do that on those socials. Also go to outoflives.net to look at Aadil's First Looks streams as well, or the YouTube channel for that, and outoflives.net for any of the other articles and posts that our contributors put up there. But that's us for this week. Lucy should be back with us next week. We'll see if we let her back. She's like, I'm not going to come on this week. We're like, well, fine, all right.
Yeah, you watch your football and eat your muscles.
Fine.
You watch your
who knows?
Muscles
Maybe
and eat
your
football.
Yeah. It's the end of the season, so it's fine. But everybody else, we will catch you very, very soon. Thank you for tuning in to us. We've been Tanked Up. Goodbye.
Ciao.
www.outoflives.net